Somewhere beneath the Persian Gulf, there is a river valley, a real one, with tributaries, floodplains, and the remnants of what may have been human settlement. It is sitting under approximately 50 meters of seawater. It has been there, drowned and silent, for at least 8,000 years. And in the myths of every civilization that ever lived near it, there is a memory of the water coming, suddenly, catastrophically, of a world ending and another beginning. Today, we are going to the beginning. Not the beginning of one civilization, the beginning of all of them. Because when the Great Flood ended and the waters, eventually, pulled back, the human beings left standing had to do something extraordinary. They had to rebuild the world from nothing. And what they built, the cities, the calendars, the mythologies, the astronomical systems, were so remarkable, so advanced, and in some cases so mysterious, that this is the story of the first nations after the flood. Before we talk mythology, and we will, extensively, let's establish what we know from science. Because the Great Flood is not just a story, it is a geological event. At the peak of the last ice age, approximately 20,000 years ago, so much of Earth's water was locked in glaciers and ice sheets that global sea levels were between 120 and 135 meters lower than they are today. Lower, not a little lower, catastrophically, unrecognizably lower. Britain was connected to Europe by a landmass called Doggerland. The Persian Gulf was a dry river basin, habitable, fertile, drained by the combined flow of the Tigris, Euphrates, Karun, and Wadi Batin rivers. Sundaland in Southeast Asia was a continent twice the size of India. Then the ice started melting, over roughly 10,000 years, but with several violent sudden episodes called meltwater pulses. Those 120 meters of sea level came roaring back. Coastlines retreated miles inland. River valleys became gulfs. Fertile plains became seafloors. And the people who had lived on those now submerged lands, the oldest civilization we know of by name, by writing, by archaeology, and by myth, is Sumer. The Sumerians lived in the southern reaches of Mesopotamia, modern-day southern Iraq, and they knew, without any doubt, that a great flood had come before them. They wrote it down on clay tablets 5,000 years ago. One of the most astonishing documents to survive from antiquity is the Sumerian king list, a record of every king to have ruled the land, their city, and how long they reigned. It begins casually, almost administratively. Then it says something extraordinary. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. In Eridu, Alulim became king. He ruled for 28,800 years. The list goes on. Kings who ruled for tens of thousands of years. Then, in the middle of the list, a single line. Then the flood swept over. After that line, the reigns shortened dramatically to human scale. The flood is presented not as myth, but as a historical marker. Before it, a different kind of world. After it, ours. The Sumerian king list names Eridu as the first city, the city where kingship descended from heaven, and archaeology confirms it. Eridu, modern-day Abu Shahrain in Iraq, shows continuous occupation going back to approximately 5400 BC, making it one of the oldest continuously inhabited sites ever discovered. At its center, archaeologists found 18 superimposed temples, one built on top of the ruins of the last, each one slightly larger, going back to the very beginning of the site. The Sumerians built directly on top of their ancestors. They knew exactly where they came from. The story of Noah and the Ark in Genesis is extraordinary, but it is not the oldest flood narrative we have. The Epic of Gilgamesh, recorded on 12 clay tablets and discovered in the ruins of the library of Ashurbanipal at Nineveh, contains a flood narrative, the story of Utnapishtim, that is structurally almost identical to the Genesis account. A god warns a righteous man, commands him to build a boat, load it with animals, and survive a catastrophic flood. The text predates the oldest portions of Genesis by at least 1,000 years. The Genesis authors almost certainly knew the Mesopotamian tradition. The flood memory was so old and so powerful, it crossed cultures and centuries like a living thing. In the Sumerian version, the flood hero, called Ziusudra in the oldest texts, was granted immortality by the gods and transported to a paradise land called Dilmun after the flood. Dilmun is real. Archaeologists have identified it as modern Bahrain, which sits at the mouth of the ancient Persian Gulf River basin, the very area that was flooded. The Sumerians placed their paradise at the site of the catastrophe. The origin of eternal life was the place where the world had drowned. The flood is not a Mesopotamian monopoly. Across the ancient world, with striking consistency, the same story appears: a catastrophe, a survivor, a new beginning. And nowhere is that story more ancient, more detailed, or more cosmically aware than in the Vedic traditions of ancient India. In the Shatapatha Brahmana, one of the oldest prose texts of ancient India, dated conservatively to somewhere between 800 and 300 BC, but drawing on oral traditions far older, there is a story about a man named Manu, the first man, the progenitor of humanity. A small fish comes to him and asks to be saved. Manu protects the fish grows, and eventually it warns him, a flood is coming. Build a ship, survive. When the waters come, the now enormous fish tows Manu's vessel to safety on a northern mountain, and Manu descends to find himself alone, the sole survivor of a drowned world. Manu then performs rituals and sacrifices to bring forth a new humanity. He is, in the Vedic tradition, the first lawgiver and the father of the post-flood world. The earliest Vedic flood text is among the oldest flood narratives on Earth, predating even some versions of the Mesopotamian accounts in its oral antecedents. Now let's cross the ocean, because the flood memory is not an old world phenomenon. It is a human phenomenon. Indigenous nations across both North and South America preserve flood traditions of extraordinary richness and detail, and what science has revealed in recent decades adds a layer of factual grounding that changes everything. Have arrived before the Ice Age ended. The conventional narrative that humans first entered the Americas across a land bridge called Beringia as the Ice Age ended, roughly 13,000 years ago, is being dramatically revised. Findings at sites like Monteverde in Chile, dated to at least 14,500 years ago, Chiquihuite Cave in Mexico, possible evidence of human presence going back 30,000 years, and sites in the Yukon and Texas are pushing the timeline of human arrival in the Americas back to a period when sea levels were still dramatically lower, and the coastline of the Pacific was hundreds of kilometers further west than it is today. All right, as we do on this channel, it's time for the facts so unusual they almost break your brain. Independent flood myths. Across the world, folklorists and anthropologists have cataloged more than 200 culturally independent flood traditions from every inhabited continent. Independent, meaning they did not borrow from each other, did not share a written source, and in many cases had no conceivable contact with each other. From the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal, to the Aboriginal Australians, to the Norse myth of Bergelmir, to the Hopi emergence story, to the Yoruba traditions of West Africa, the flood comes. The righteous few survive. The world is remade. The consistency across cultures isolated by oceans and millennia is one of the most extraordinary patterns in the entire history of human storytelling. After Ryan and Pittman published their Black Sea hypothesis in 1997, National Geographic funded an expedition led by explorer Robert Ballard, the man who found the Titanic, to investigate the Black Sea floor. He found it, a preserved ancient shoreline, roughly 155 meters below the current surface, with what appeared to be collapsed mud brick structures. Not proof of Noah, but proof of a real coastline, real habitation, and a real catastrophic inundation. The people who lived on that coast and fled the rising water went somewhere. They told their children what happened, and their children's children's children wrote it down on clay tablets in Sumer, The first nations that rose after the Great Flood built more than cities. They built memory systems, myths, calendars, astronomical observatories, oral traditions, designed to ensure that what had happened would never be forgotten. And in an age before writing, they embedded their most important knowledge in the most durable medium available: story. The Sumerians built in stone and clay. The Vedic priests memorized vast texts across thousands of years without writing a single word. The indigenous nations of the Americas encoded cosmological cycles in architecture. Chichen Itza, Teotihuacan, Cahokia, designed so that the sun and stars themselves would speak the calendar at solstice and equinox. They all looked at the same sky. They all remembered the same water. And they all, independently, reached the same conclusion. The universe is not safe. It is beautiful and generous and alive with pattern and meaning, but it is capable of taking everything away. And so, they built their most important knowledge into the hardest-wearing things they knew: stone, star, and story. Neil deGrasse Tyson ends Astrophysics for People in a Hurry with an observation that I think every student of ancient history should write on their wall. He says that we are part of this universe, we are in this universe, but perhaps more important than either of those facts is that the universe is in us. The atoms in your body, the water in your cells, they have been part of glaciers, oceans, rivers, rain. They have been in the bodies of people who watched the flood come and survived it. You are, in a very real and non-metaphorical sense, a survivor of the Great Flood. Your atoms were there. The Great Flood is not a story about destruction. It is a story about endurance, about the stubborn refusal of human beings to disappear. Every civilization we've discussed today, the Sumerians, the Vedic Indians, the Ojibwe, the Cherokee, the Maya, and Aztec, were built by people who had everything taken from them by water and started again, from nothing, with their hands and their memory and their eyes on the stars. The next time you see rain, think about what rain actually is: water that has been circling this planet since before life existed, falling and rising and falling again. The same water that flooded Eridu, the same water that towed Manu's boat, the same water the Cherokee dog smelled in the wind before warning his master. Water remembers everything. So should we. If this video opened up the ancient world for you, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Drop a comment below. I want to know. Which flood myth was new to you today? Which one shook you the most? And check out our playlist on the world's first civilizations, linked in the description, because this story is only just beginning. Until next time, keep questioning, keep digging, and when the water rises, build higher.